What's up guys, welcome to the garage. Today we are upgrading the JJRC Q60. Not going to town with this, literally going to give it a few upgrades just to increase the performance but not cost a lot of money. You can spend loads of money on these trucks. This is going to be some essential upgrades that will get you a really good capable truck. So I've got the usual 20 amp ESC that I use for nearly all of mine. I will link in the description all the stuff I can. I can't link everything, but I will put links in the description to help you see what you need. Got the stock WPL steering servo that comes with the kits, and again the stock 180 motor that comes with the WPL kits. So we're going to fit them. Obviously, fitting all these, you will need your own radio and receiver. I've got plenty of them, so I'll be using my own, but you will need, if you haven't got your own transmitter and receiver, you will need one. And we're also going to try, I don't know how well it's going to work, I'm going to put some Diff oil in the diffs to see if that helps with that issue with the losing traction and just one wheel spinning. This is 100,000 weight, or 100 weight I think they might call it, and it's pure silicone oil. Loads of this sort of stuff about. This one's fast tracks, but you can get all sorts. I've got a selection, however I'm going for the thickest I've got. So I'm going to strip the truck down and then we'll start getting all this fitted. So we won't be requiring any of the electronics off of this, so don't worry too much if you break it. One thing you won't be able to do straight away is run the LED front lights, but for me, I'm not overly bothered about that. Right, so body's off, and now all we've got to do remove the steering motor. So non-proportional steering uses a motor rather than the servo. It's a bit of a, I don't know why they do it, because it always seems a bit of a more complicated way of doing it than steering servo, but I guess there's a reason. Maybe it is cheaper, but it doesn't seem it because there's more parts, but who knows. It's up to you how you do the connector, but if you're just my C14, I use a LiPo, whereas on this one I'm going to use the stock battery. So keep hold of this, because you'll need to put that, you need to swap that with that if you're using the stock battery. Don't throw it away. Now this steering on this one has got, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's got, let me just get the light. This has got a bit of a strange steering setup compared to the others, so not sure whether we're going to be able to get the servo on there, but we'll give it a go when we get to that point. So these motors are a friction fit. This one comes out usually nice and easy. You may struggle to get this in. Oh, not on this one. There we go, easy. All I've got to do is solder the connectors on there, which I'll do now. So we'll get the wires soldered on. If you're not happy with soldering, then find someone who'll be able to do it for you. The cables for the motor, if you get it with the kit, come pre-tinned. Tinned means they've already got some solder on them, so it just takes a small dab and they should stay. Red for red and then plain for the black, so positive and negative. Because the wires are pre-tinned, it should be okay just to put a dab of solder on the iron. So put the cable in, make sure I put it in the wrong way at first, so I'm just going to do it again. When I say I put it in the wrong way, you want the cable coming over the top of the motor rather than the bottom, because otherwise it gets tangled in the drive shafts. So like I say, really easy to put these on because they're pre-tinned. Put the other one in, bend it a little bit just so it grips it. Bit of solder on your clean iron. So that's that job done. And we'll go straight back in there. Make sure you get your drive shafts on there. So on this one, not all the WPL, so on this one, you can see the mount has got some stoppers on there for the motor. This 180 won't fit. I don't think it'll fit anyway. No. So we'll need to remove them. Quite a bit cut out of it, but that's done. So connect it back up. So motor connected. We'll now get the ESC on, the steering servo. Now I can already see, so it does fit. You just need a bit of padding under there because it sits on that ridge, and there is some cutouts there. That will sit in there. It will sit square. Just may have to fiddle about with it for a bit. So the steering servo now has got enough clearance. All I've had to do, I've put a steering arm on it, and I've had to, as you can see, just had to trim a little bit around the front, and that's because if I want to keep this arm, I want to keep this steering arm on, just gives it the clearance for the suspension. Without cutting that bit out, the steering arm was pushing it into the plastic and stopping the suspension from moving. So that should now, we should be able to mount that on there, no problem. All I'll do is just trim probably the bottom 2 holes off there so it's not too long, and then we'll get some trim tape. That's my favoured bit of double-sided trim tape. Now I'm not sure, we may need to put a double layer on just to get above that little ridge. So I'm going to cut 2 strips. Yeah, that should hold. Because you've got quite a big gap on that steering arm, we need to get a bush or something in there, otherwise you're going to have loads of slop on the steering. So we'll have a look at that. So managed to get the steering servo in. It took three layers of trim tape to get it stuck down, and even I'm not sure it's fully stuck, so I might have to make a small plastic spacer or like plate to go underneath, but for the time being it's in there. And also because of the steering arm setup, I don't know how well you can see that, I've had to get a little bush with the screw through it onto the servo, because without that bush there, and because of the gap between the steering arm, there was loads of slop, whereas there's not much at all now, and that's adequate for what I need this. And as you can see, suspension still works because that bush moves up and down on the arm. I'd suggest, if you've got the spares, to put a WPL steering arm, or make your own steering arm. That'd be much easier, but it works, so we'll go with that. So motor's in, steering servo's on, just the electronics to mount now. The switch on these ones is a direct fit, which is ideal. That's another reason I like them. Just use the original screws, if I can find where I put the original screws. So the steering servo's in, motor's in, I've soldered the battery connector on, and now connected to the receiver, and then it's ready for a test. So throttle, forward, backwards, steering. Just need to tidy that, get that steering servo taped down a bit better. I'm going to tidy the electronics up, and then we'll get on to getting the oil in the diffs. So all back together now. No major issues putting it all back on. The only thing I had to do was the back of the cab. I'll just stick a picture up now. You have to make a very tiny cut, just take a little bit out, because again that 180 motor, a little bit bigger than the stock one, so you have to just cut it to fit it. I removed the steering servo again, because as you saw, it's a little bit wobbly with just the pads on it, just the trim tape. So remove that. I've put a little bit of plastic in there, cut a bit of plastic to shape and put that in, and now that's the steering servo is solid. And we've got the receiver is in the cab. Receiver's in the cab there. I'll neaten that up at another point, but that's in there now. I had to make a little hole in the floor to get the servo cable and the ESC through. So anyway, all back together. Let's get the diffs apart now, and then see if we can improve them. Take the wheels off. So that's how easy the diff is. That's how loose and how open the diff is at the moment. You hardly touch it, and it's turning the wheel the opposite way, which is obviously what a diff does like this. So what we want to do is I'm going to put some oil in here, like I showed you previously. Put some diff oil in, and we'll see if that improves the stiffness of it. So I'm going to take the wheels off, and I think I'm going to remove the axle completely. Is probably the best option. So you just push the pin in the drive shaft, just pull that out, then that comes off completely. So we'll open this up. So it's a very basic diff there. I'm not sure if the oil's going to stay in here, but we'll give it a go. It is very thick, so we'll probably leave it at that to see if that's okay. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's going to stay in. But if we don't try, we won't know, will we? So that's the first one done. I'll put it all back together, then I'm going to do the other two, and then we'll come back when it's all finished and we'll give it a run. So that's the last axle on. So all three now full of diff oil. I'm going to put the wheels on, and then we're going to give it a test. You can't really see it on the video, but that now, I mean, before I was able to just rub my finger across and it would turn, whereas now my finger's slipping. So definitely an improvement, and they feel much stiffer. But we've still got the diff working. We've just made it maybe a little bit better for off-road. So let's go and give it a test. So we've got the JJRC out here today. It's really windy, don't know how it's going to come across on the audio. Let's see how this goes now it's all upgraded. We've got a nice little area here to run in, so let's give it a go. Nice to have proportional throttle. Remember, the diffs aren't locked on this, they've just got oil in them, so let's see how it goes. I'm sure it won't be able to climb some of the steeper stuff, but already with that proportional throttle we're doing well. So you can see the wheels slipping a little bit, but we're still able, look at that, much better. Check that out. Awesome. So handled that really well. We'll try a few more bits and then we'll maybe find somewhere a little bit more technical for it to go. Let's bring it down here. You can see them wheels slipping, but that oil, oh, massive difference. Massive difference. Alright, let's try a bit of a steeper slope here for it. A little bit more technical, see if them diffs really help. You can see it slipping there. A bit more throttle and she's over. Oh yeah, awesome. So definitely recommend oiling these diffs. Give it a go on some long grass, see how we cope. No problem at all. Look at that. So we've got a bit more of a rugged area down here. Let's bring it down the hill, see how we get on. Oh wow, that is awesome. That'll be why we're struggling. Cleaned out, let's try again. Hopefully it won't fall in, not sure how deep this is.